That's a clown question, bro.
Halves up, yes!
So I'm gonna kick some dirt.
He gets on base.
Just a bit outside.
I'm not the type of player that's going to be Johnny Hustle.
If you don't want me to watch the ball, you can go get it out of the ocean.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, we have reached another point in the history series. We are going over the oldest team that is on the list of the 1988 Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yes, very big deal. I was excited to see a nice throwback team in the mix, and yeah, we're with Vin Scully's favorite, or one of Vin Scully's calls in a future game we'll be talking about is, in a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. So I'm excited to get into this improbable season for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll start out with the context of this franchise heading into 1988.
So going into 88, the Dodgers went 73 and 89 in 1987. That's not good, but they also went the exact same 73 and 89 in 1986. So they were suffering back-to-back 73 win seasons in a big market. That's not very good. And by the way, in the previous year, they had gotten fourth in the NL West out of 6 teams. So it just wasn't looking good for the Dodgers. And on top of that, the ace from the 1987 season and future Cy Young winner Bob Welsh ended up leaving for the Oakland A's in a 3-team trade that gave the Dodgers Alfredo Griffin, Jay Howell, and Jesse Orosco. Alfredo Griffin is a shortstop. Howell and Orosco are both relievers. So the Dodgers, they had been struggling for the last couple of years, and they lost their ace. So they brought back a 43-year-old Don Sutton as a free agent, which, it's not really going to be as effective. He's 43. And they signed Kirk Gibson as a free agent, which, that was nice, I guess. But realistically speaking, this team wasn't meant to compete during the 1988 season. But they did dodge a bad start. On opening day, after Fernando Valenzuela threw a scoreless top of the first inning, Steve Sachs came up and looked to set the tone on the upcoming season.
Dispensed with rather quickly by second baseman Steve Sachs. That marked the beginning of a very special year for the Dodgers.
So in the very first pitch that any Dodgers sees in the 1986 season, Steve Sachs takes it out of the yard. But that would be just about the only Dodger contributions in that game, as they went on to lose 5-1. But the Dodgers still started the year with an impressive 11-4 record. Mike Scioscia, their catcher, during the first 15 games of the season, hit .474, .543, .553, .1096. And the Dodgers finished the month of April with a record of 13-7. They were second in the National League West, and they were just a half game behind the division-leading Houston Astros. And Orel Hershiser, one of their pitchers, was very dominant at the start of the season. He went 5-0 in the month of April with a 1.56 ERA, and he was the only pitcher in the majors that month with 5 wins and a sub 2.5 ERA. So Orel Hershiser dominating the month of April, and that was just the sign of things to come. And as a staff, the Dodgers led the majors in ERA with a 2.33 during the month. They also led in FIP with a 2.75, home runs per 9 with an 0.3, and they led the NL in F4 with a 3.3.
And now we're on to some one-sided baseball, where throughout the month of May, the Dodgers showed a mixture of dominance and ineptitude on the baseball field. So their offense was great, boasting the second best position player F4 in the National League. And they also scored at least 8 runs in 6 of their games in the month of May. And the pitching was also very good, as they had a 3.39 ERA during the month. This would suggest that they had a very good May, but they only went 14-13 throughout the month. So you're wondering what happened there. The defense struggled. In fact, there was a 5-game stretch between May 21st and 27th where the Dodgers made 8 errors. And during this stretch, the Dodgers were in the middle of a slump. They were fed up, and they were ready to take it out on the New York Mets.
That'll bring up Pedro Guerrero, who also has not contributed to a run. He has not scored a run or driven in a run in this series. That would snapped his helmet right off his head.
Well, Pete's looking out there at David Cone. And I don't know why David would be throwing at Guerrero in this situation.
Well, he got to pitch hitters tight. He didn't make much
That's
of a
right.
move to get out of the way. That pitch wasn't that far inside.
Besides, Pedro's the type of hitter, and we talked about it on Friday night, that you want to pitch high and tight because of his muscular upper body. And that's a difficult place for pitchers, or rather hitters who have large upper bodies, to swing the bat. And you got a situation here where, as you just said, Ralph, Pedro hadn't done any damage in this series, and
certainly wouldn't want to wake him up.
No, there's no purpose there.
And back inside again. 2 balls, no strikes. Where is Joe McGinty when you need him? He only hit 41 batters in 1 year.
Pedro's staring at David Cone again, and David's staring right back at him.
Well, I'll tell you, you can't let the hitter intimidate you about pitching inside. I believe the big problem that pitchers have is they get intimidated by some of these big guys. Certainly Dave Winfield is intimidating.
But over in the American League, for the most part, you don't find pitchers pitching inside as much as you do in the National League. Oh, and Pedro
he's got to get suspended.
Through the bat.
He's got to get suspended for that.
Barry Lyons wrestling Pedro away from Cone. That was a breaking ball.
It's a curveball, for crying out loud.
That was a curveball that Pedro really ducked into.
Oh, that is serious throwing that bat at that pitcher.
Really not much of a fight, as everybody really went out there to keep anything serious from happening, and that's a good thing.
Well, Barry Lyons getting a hold of Guerrero, who really lost his cool, and throwing that bat at Cone, and it was a curveball that hit him on the helmet. It was not a fastball. You don't throw at anybody with a curveball.
So Pedro Guerrero had enough of.
How often do you see a fight where it results in the announcer immediately saying he's got to get suspended?
Yeah, I mean, not even 5 seconds into it.
Yeah.
He went full Machado there, and yeah, I mean, I don't even know if the commentators talked about suspension
before Machado was even alive.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before he was alive, and despite the mediocre play from the Los Angeles Dodgers, newly acquired Kirk Gibson actually had himself quite the month. He slashed 324, 391, 627 for a 1018 OPS with a 435 WOBA and a 190 weighted runs created plus. And his 304 ISO, isolated power, also led the National League. And his 1.7 F4 was tied with Mets legend Bobby Bonilla for first in the National League. And the Dodgers finished the month of May with a season record of 27-20, but the Astros, who were their biggest competitor at the time, only went 12-14 during the month. So the Dodgers were ahead in the division by half a game.
So now we get into June, which was very much the tale of two halves. The Dodgers hovered around 500 at the start of June, starting the month with an 8-8 record. And after that, they went off, winning 10 of their next 12. One of the biggest pieces for LA was backup shortstop Dave Anderson. Alfredo Griffin, the piece that they got for Bob Welsh, one of them, he ended up going down with an injury, and Anderson slipped right into the lineup. And through these 12 games, he slashed 351, 442, 551, 982. Kirk Gibson also did a great job, 289, 453, 474, and 927 with 12 walks and 11 hits. He actually had more walks than hits, and he hit 280. He hit almost 300, which is crazy.
Yeah.
The Dodgers finished the first half of the season going 48-36. That gave them a 2.5 game lead in the division. So now we go on to the All-Star break, and Orel Hershiser was the only Dodger to make the All-Star game that season. He went 13-4 in the first half, which is, I mean, if you go 13-4 in the 80s, that's an automatic bid to the All-Star game. They might be hailing you as the greatest pitcher of all time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
You don't even need to see anything else. But to be fair, that 13-4 wasn't a fluke. He had a 2.62 ERA and 140 2/3 innings pitched. However, multiple players on the team I feel were snubbed. Like, there's no way Orel Hershiser should have been the only All-Star on this team. Tim Leary, one of their starting pitchers, he was the only pitcher in the National League with at the All-Star break with a 2.5 plus FWAR, 7 plus strikeouts per 9, and an ERA below 3. That should be All-Star. And that should be All-Star worthy, in my opinion. Not to mention Kirk Gibson having the 9th best weighted runs created plus in the majors at the break with 160, and John Shelby, one of their outfielders, having the 9th best weighted runs created plus in the National League through the first half with 149. And Hershiser did appear in the game during the 8th inning, and after retiring Kirby Puckett and Harold Reynolds in order, Jose Canseco was the last one standing between him and a 1-2-3 inning.
Were upset with Herzog, but in a way, Kirk elected not to come. Another guy who could have come was John Shelby. He's having that kind of a year. Larkin throws to Galarraga, and Canseco is 0 for 4 tonight. At the end of 7.5, still 2-1, American lead.
Gotta love the time when people got 4 at-bats in an All-Star game.
Yeah, and it's the 8th inning and no relievers come out yet.
Yep. Well, I mean, I looked at this. I don't think relievers really got to the All-Star game back then.
Yeah, literally.
Like maybe just like 1 or 2 closers, and then one of them actually closes it out. Like Hershiser pitched the 8th. It was pretty much. I'll take only like 6 pitchers appeared for the NL in that game.
Yeah, but very different than today. Like the first pitcher might have pitched like 3 innings possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the first half, and now on to the second half where it's time to go back to work for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And on July 14th, the Dodgers went into Wrigley for a rare five-game series. And after taking both ends of a doubleheader, they also won the 3rd game in extras on a go-ahead single by Tracy Woodson. Then in Game 4, Orel Hershiser gave up 2 early runs, but the Dodgers tied it later on RBI from Anderson and Woodson. The game went into the bottom of the 9th, still tied, but then rain began to fall at Wrigley Field. And keep in mind, and this was before Wrigley Field had lights. And as they would debut, this was before Wrigley Field had lights, which those lights were going to be debuted just a month later. And the game ended as a tie in this game, and this led to a doubleheader the next day, making it a 6-game series. The Dodgers ended up winning both ends of the next doubleheader, and in the end, they played 6 games in Chicago and went undefeated.
I'm just gonna pause it right there, Chris. According to the record, the Dodgers played 161 games. So that game, I think, just didn't count for their record, even if they played a doubleheader the next day. It probably was supposed to be a 6-game series.
Yeah, that's pretty confusing.
Like, I'm not going to spoil their record, on the season, but if you look at it, they played 161 games.
Yeah, that's
and also their Pythagorean win-loss adds up to 161 games. And there was 162 games scheduled. And I checked through to see if there was any rainout games that just they didn't play. No. That tie is the one thing that just they kept it up. There was no official final score. If you look at if you go on Baseball Reference and you look at the little lines for every single game that represent the margin of difference between a win and a loss, that tie is still there, but it's just in gray area, and it's split down the middle. So it's just yeah, I don't know how to count this, but they played it and it doesn't count towards their record.
Yeah, that's it's extremely interesting. It might be another thing we might have to email Baseball Reference about. It might be our 2021 project.
Yeah, last year was Jason Bartlett. This year was that one tie between the Dodgers and Cubs in 1988, right before the lights came in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally reconsidering this whole entire 1988 season.
Way, so the bottom of the ninth wasn't even played. Like the Dodgers took their at bats in the top of the ninth in a 2-2 game. They didn't score. The Cubs had a chance to walk it off. Rain started and the game never resumed. Like the Cubs didn't even have a chance to win it.
Yeah, that's fishy.
It's very weird.
I don't know why it wasn't suspended.
I wonder if there was ever a time where the Cubs Mother Nature made up to them for giving them like a convenient rain delay.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you might think, yeah.
I don't know,
I wonder if
World Series, I don't know, World Series Game 7, like the team just has a ton of momentum that they're playing against, and like they just need like 20 minutes to reconsider, and reset themselves. I don't know. I feel like it'd be like something like that.
Maybe your right fielder needs to just say something to the team real quick. But
yeah, like that right fielder that hasn't contributed much on the field, but like you sign him to a $184 million contract or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. We're speaking in hypotheticals, you know.
This is just we're at the point of our offseason where, you know, our brains are just wired to create some weird baseball scenarios that'll never happen.
Yeah. It's that's what February does.
Yep.
There's no football going on.
Thank God pitchers and catchers reported today.
Oh yeah. I'm so excited. I love pitchers and catchers, even though the MLB is pretty much going at the same rate as it was yesterday.
Yep.
I still love it. So after that 5-0-1 sweep, undefeated streak, 6-game undefeated streak against the Cubs. At this point, the Dodgers were running away with the division as they were 8 games up on July 18th. And on August 20th, the Dodgers were riding the wave of a 5-game win streak where they were clicking on all cylinders. They were losing 3-2 in the ninth, but Kirk Gibson hit a game-tying single, and 2 batters later, something pretty crazy was about to happen.
1-2 pitch. Right on through the catcher into the screen. Gibson comes to third. He's going to try to score. The play at the plate. He scores and the ball game is over. Kirk Gibson on a wild pitch scores from second base. The Dodgers win 4-3. A wild pitch thrown by Joe Hesketh, and Gibson with a great piece of base running scored from second.
So Kirk Gibson scores on a wild pitch to walk it off 4-3. Not a lot of times you see that happening.
Like he wasn't even stealing.
And on August 27th, Tommy Lasorda decided to pull his best Pedro Guerrero impression. You know, Pedro Guerrero, who had fought David Cohn or came close to it. Gonna try to top him here.
Tommy, he's out there as the Philly Fanatic has a stuffed mannequin of a Dodger, and Tommy trying to get that Fanatic close. You see the physique of the of the mannequin. Tommy's a little bit hot, I think. As he's going to move that over now. Look at him go. Now he says, "You don't make fun of me or my ball club." Oh, what a dilly. They threw a ball at him. Oh, boy. Well.
how great that this happened in the 1988 season.
Back in like April, when we first started this series, and I was looking through all the teams, I was like, wait, the 88 Dodgers, what was the year that Lasorda went at it with the Philly Fanatic? And I researched it. I was like, yes, like it, thank God.
Yeah, and like the year that Randy Johnson hit that dove, 0-1.
Yep.
Like just those
beautiful
viral moments just landing on championship seasons.
I feel like that was just the absolute peak of 80s baseball. Like it was a weird time when you really look into the intricate parts of it like that.
Yeah, like it was Veterans Stadium. Yeah, it was one of those two-way stadiums that had football and baseball, and it had turf. You got Tommy Lasorda fighting a mascot.
If it was still around today, it would be viewed as the worst ballpark in baseball, like unequivocally.
Yeah, no doubt. Those types of parks stunk.
Yeah.
In all fairness. So yeah, now we're on to all eyes on Orel.
Yeah. So the Dodgers went into September with a 6.5 game division lead. So I'm just going to say it. The division was wrapped up. They won it. But there was a different focus at hand. On August 30th, Orel Hershiser threw his third straight complete game and picked up his 18th win in a 4-2 victory for the Dodgers. And both runs against him were scored in the 5th inning, and the 4 innings after that were scoreless. And in his next start, he pitched a complete game shutout against the Atlanta Braves, and Hershiser now had 13 consecutive shutout innings to his name. And in his next start, he looked for his 20th win on the year.
With the count 1-2 and 2 out. Sets and delivers. Strike 3, and he's done it. Orel Hershiser.
So Orel Hershiser with a complete game shutout to get his 20th win. That gave him 22 more consecutive scoreless innings. He was about halfway to Don Drysdale, who set the record for scoreless innings consecutively in the famous 1968 year of the pitcher season. And his next start came on just 3 days rest, where he once again shut out the Atlanta Braves, and the Dodgers won 1-0 on a 9th inning walk-off. And Hershiser's scoreless streak was now at 31 innings. He was getting there to Don Drysdale. And hopefully, I mean, if he could do it, Don Drysdale's probably happy it's him because he can keep it in Dodger blue.
Yeah.
So could he do it again in his next start against the Houston Astros?
2-1. Popped in the air, foul, and Socia has a play. All alone. He's got it, and Hershiser has his 22nd win, his 4th consecutive shutout. He has a string of 40 consecutive scoreless innings, and Tommy Lasorda and the Dodgers have reduced the magic number to 4. And what a great play it was by Alfredo on the ball hit by Davis.
So Orel Hershiser done it again against the Astros. He is 40 innings down, and he's only got 2 starts left of the year. So he's going to have to be pretty much perfect. In his next start, he ran into some trouble in the 3rd inning with a runner on 3rd and 1 out.
Sacks. Goes to Griffin for 1. They throw it away. Uribe scores to second base is Ernie Riles. And the Giants take a 1-0 lead. So a ground ball that appeared it should have been a double play ball. But the throw by Sachs was not a good throw. Watch where Griffin comes across. Butler going out as Griffin came back across. And they call the interference play, and the inning is over. They call the interference play, and here comes Roger Craig. The inning is over and take the run away, and the scoreless inning streak is still alive. And it could only happen with the Giants and the Dodgers.
So a controversial call there in the third inning. Orel Hershiser gets to keep his streak with the interference on the slide there. And with that aside, he looked to finish the game.
That's hit to center field, and Shelby is there. He'll run it down, and the ball game is over. Orel Hershiser and the Los Angeles Dodgers shut out the San Francisco Giants.
Another one. The streak was at 49 innings. Going into Orel's last start of the year, he needed 9 shutout innings to tie Don Drysdale and 10 innings to beat him. And it was his last start of the year, so this would mean for him to have any chance of breaking the record, the Dodgers would have to avoid scoring for the entire game so it can get to the 10th inning. So sure enough, with this improbable possibility, we jump to the 10th inning of a scoreless ball game.
Marvell win the winning run at 10, at third here in the 10th. Unbelievable to go extra innings and give him a chance. The 1-2 pitch. Fly ball to right on a semi-check swing. Gonzalez, the record. Orel Hershiser, 59 consecutive innings scoreless. The all-time record. Great performance. Congratulations to him. What a great job. And still a scoreless game through 10. If he's not the Cy Young Award winner, there's Drysdale, whose record he just broke. He had left the booth, gone downstairs.
So Orel Hershiser does the improbable. He breaks Don Drysdale's record. Chris, before we go on to the playoffs, we need to talk about this scenario going into the game. The Dodgers had already clinched the playoffs. They knew where they were going to be. They were playing for nothing, essentially. You have to imagine they weren't even trying at the plate. Like, they couldn't have been. Like, someone would have been hated if they hit a home run.
Yeah, I might have to go into that game. Like, do you just like swing at every first pitch, just drive it in the ground, or
you have the biggest uppercut on your swing ever?
Yeah, or like bunt.
Yeah,
I don't know. Try to make it not look like it's on purpose. I mean, like, it's very considerable that they kind of tanked offensively.
Yeah, like you've seen games before where like teams would intentionally lose to like keep a rival out of the playoffs. Like you could point to game 162 of the 2011 season with the New York Yankees. Like with they botched a 7-run lead in 3 innings to keep the Red Sox out of the playoffs. We've seen things like that, but how often do you see like a team just not scoring? Like don't even bother getting on base. Maybe get a couple hits here and there just because. But like whatever you do, don't score because we need this guy to get this record.
Yeah, I mean, Nolan Ryan got the single season strikeout record in extra innings.
That's a good point.
It's possible that there may not have been some effort in the 9th and 10th inning from the Angels that year, but that's the only historical scenario I can think of.
And that's only a couple innings. This is the entire game.
Yeah, that's
like Steve Stacks was leading off that game. Like, all right, ground ball to second base. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that.
Run that back.
The Angels scored 4 runs in their game, and the Twins happened to also score 4.
Yeah.
So like an entire game, I can't think of any other situation like that.
No. The Dodgers actually lost that game 2-1 in 16 innings, but it didn't really matter because what was important ended up coming to fruition. And they ended up winning the division with a record of 94-67. Once again, that adds up to 161 games on the season. Like I said.
Yeah.
So Kirk Gibson, a guy that they acquired as a free agent, ended up winning National League MVP on the season. He slashed 290, 377, 483 for a 860 OPS. He hit 25 home runs, had 31 stolen bases, and 73 walks, as well as 148 OPS plus. And this was the first season in franchise history with 25 plus home runs, 30 plus stolen bases, 70 plus walks, and 145 OPS plus. I think only Matt Kemp has done it since in 2011. Orel Hershiser, as you may expect, won the National League MVP. He went 23-8 with what?
Cy Young.
What did I say?
MVP.
Oh, we didn't have co-MVPs. Orel Hershiser won the Cy Young, as you can imagine. He had a 23-8 record, a 2.26 ERA, 149 ERA plus, 15 complete games, and 8 shutouts. 267 innings pitched. He led the NL in wins. He led the NL in complete games. As you can very well imagine, he led in shutouts, he led in innings pitched, and he led in batters faced with 1067. And he got 6th in the MVP vote, not first. Also, Steve Sachs had himself a season. He slashed 277, 325, 343, 668 with 42 stolen bases, and that gave him 18th in the MVP vote. Also, Tim Belcher had a great rookie season. That's a guy who also played on the 95 Mariners, so he is a repeat player on this show.
Hershiser is too, right?
Hershiser is too. He played for the 97 Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are the only two. Could be wrong though. Anyway, Tim Belcher went 12-6 with a 2.91 ERA, 116 ERA plus, and that gave him 3rd in the Rookie of the Year vote. Also, Mike Marshall, their right fielder, was a guy who didn't disappoint. He slashed 277, 314, 445, 758 for a 118 OPS plus, 20 home runs, and 82 RBI. Also, Tim Leary, another starting pitcher who I mentioned earlier as an all-star snub. He went 17-11 with a 2.91 ERA. He tied Tim Belcher, a 1.15 ERA plus, 228 and 2/3 innings pitched. Also, the bullpen led the majors in ERA with a 2.35, FIP with a 2.79, Ks per 9 with a 7.17. That'd be like last in today's MLB.
Yeah.
Walks per 9 with 2.91. And with pieces like Jay Howell, Alejandro Pena, Brian Holton, Tim Cruz, and Jesse Orozco, pretty much anything is possible. All 5 of those guys that I just mentioned had a sub 3.2 ERA in at least 50 innings pitched. And this stat doesn't really mean anything, but I thought it was funny. The 1988 Dodgers are the only team in baseball history to have 3 pitchers by the name Tim Belcher, Tim Leary, and Tim Cruz with a sub 3.3 ERA. Of course, everyone remembers when they set that record. They were having parades just for that. It didn't even matter what they did in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm glad we mentioned Orel Hershiser's scoreless inning streak because it kind of got overshadowed by this phenomenon.
Yeah. And Tommy Lasorda won National League Manager of the Year. So the Dodgers had the MVP, Cy Young, and Manager of the Year on their team.
Yeah, they cleaned up at the MLB
Awards weekend or Awards week. So now they go into the playoffs to the National League Championship Series because this was before the expanded playoffs, and it was against the 100-win New York Mets.
Yes, the New York Mets, who had won the World Series just 2 years prior, looking to get back. And in Game 1, after Steve Sachs got himself into scoring position early, Mike Marshall had an early chance to come through for the Dodgers.
But maybe not in just a week. Marshall hits a broken bat looper into right field for a base hit. 1-0. Well, the Dodgers, even though they have a couple of guys who can hit them out, might have to manufacture runs in a, let's say, Cardinal-type manner of the last couple of years with that single.
So the Dodgers get ahead early in game 1 of the NLCS. And throughout the game, Orel Hershiser and Dwight Gooden each dealt. These two were in their prime, and the game was 2-0 Dodgers going into the 9th, and that was where Orel Hershiser looked to complete another, once again, complete game shutout.
McCarver, 9th inning of game 1, 2-0 Los Angeles. And Jeffries to lead off for the Mets, taking outside. That's the 91st pitch thrown by Hershiser. This is almost a dreamlike game for Lasorda and the Dodgers to this point. On the verge of a victory and a pretty low pitch count, but Jeffries whacks it into center field for a base hit. And we say a dreamlike thing for Lasorda to this point because what he'd like to do is bring Hershiser back on 3 days rest Saturday. But now he's got another thing to worry about, namely the ball game. And you can see with Jeffries at first base, Woodson, who is the new first baseman for the Dodgers, can take the liberty of playing behind him. The tying run at the plate, and he's going to go and exploit it, and it's hit down to Woodson, who makes the play at first base. So he was playing behind him, and Jeffries figured, why not go to second?
Jeffries is off the bag, Al. Pardon me. He thought it was a line drive. He wanders off the bag.
For the moment, he's a lucky guy right now.
Wow.
I'd like to get Strawberry out, as you said, out of the strike zone.
Lined into right center for a base hit. That will score a run. The Dodger outfield very deep, and Strawberry will take advantage by sliding into second with a double. So Jeffries comes in to score to make it 2-1, and the tying run is now at second base. And the Dodger infield, or outfield, backed up with Strawberry at the plate. And as Shelby surrounded it, Strawberry is able to take the extra base.
I'll tell you, in fairness to the Dodger outfielders, you're playing back to prevent the double, but because they were back, that caused the double. Because Shelby had to range too far to his left, and once Strawberry saw that momentary bobble, boom, he's into second base.
And Hershiser's going to come out of the game, and the ovation for Orel. And so with the right-hand hitting McReynolds coming up to the bullpen for right-hander Jay Howell. As the Mets score here in the 9th, still only 1 out as Howell comes in, 2-1 Dodgers.
Good play by Socia.
3-1 to McReynolds, ball 4. Tying run and go-ahead run on base. And now Howard Johnson comes up.
Shortstop, Howard Johnson. The tighter the spin, the better chance of doing it.
Got him on a curve. So a fastball pitcher against a fastball hitter, and he never throws a fastball. Line to center field, and with the outfield deep, Shelby can't make the catch as Strawberry comes in to score, and McReynolds is being waved in the throw to Socia. Socia blocks the plate, but without the ball, and McReynolds is saved. And with the Dodger outfield deep for Carter, it costs him, as Shelby just falls short of coming up with it.
And in a shocking turn of events, Orel Hershiser finally gives up a run, ends up with 2 or 3 charged to him, and the Mets won that game 3-2. A moment.
Hey, Chris, before we go on, the Mets won 3-2. Very shocking turn of events there, but no questions asked. You have your phone on you, right?
Yeah.
All right, can you pull up your calculator?
Yep.
All right. Type in 340.
340
divided by 14.
14.
What's that answer?
24.3.
And that is the average annual value that Fernando Tatis Jr. will be getting on his new extension.
Whoa.
Yeah. We got some breaking news over here.
That makes oh wow. I mean, it makes sense because there's some arbitration years, so it's probably a little less in average annual value. But man, Padres aren't messing around.
No,
We've been saying it all off season, but yeah, that's
yeah. Jeff Passan, our guy, coming through with that one. Fernando Tatis Jr. signs a 14-year, $340 million extension with the San Diego Padres.
So he's there until 2035 or 2034. Yeah, 2034. Nice.
That's right.
That that's cool to see. You can hear more about that on the news episode that we do every Tuesday.
Yeah, that'll be
the off season. And you know, it'll just be baseball talk when the season starts. But anyway, back to when the original Fernando Tatis was playing, I think, maybe not even, in 1988, where the Mets won that game 3-2. And then in game 2, this game had a near mirrored start to game 1. Mike Marshall had a first inning opportunity with a man in scoring position, but the runner this time was Mickey Hatcher.
This season plagued by balks. He had 10 during the regular year as Marshall lifts a fly ball to shallow left field. In comes McReynolds and he slides and he can't make the play and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead. So the Dodgers cash in on a big break. Hatcher walks on what appears to be strike 3. The balk moves him to second. And then a little.
So Mike Marshall drops one into the outfield and makes it a 1-0 Dodger ball game. And with the Dodgers having that 1-0 lead, they looked to tack on in the second when Steve Sachs came up with 2 men on.
Sachs is a key to this offense.
And that's grounded back through the middle, base hit. Hamilton around third. He'll come in to score, and it's 2-0 Dodgers.
And the next batter was Mickey Hatcher.
And a breaking pitch is in fair down the left field line and into the corner. Belcher will come in to score. Sachs is being waved in by Amalfitano. Here comes the relay from Johnson. Carter's tag. No, he's safe.
So the Dodgers take full control, and the Dodgers were in full control as they got another run in that same inning on a Mike Marshall single, and the Dodgers ended up winning that game 6-3. And in game 3, after Ron Darling walked back-to-back batters to begin the inning, Mike Scioscia had a chance to give the Dodgers the lead.
Can you just edit it? Because you already played this video, right?
Sort of. I'll play it again just so I keep my mind right.
Play. Darling trying to throw a strike after walking 2 hitters.
Now he bunts, and it's a beauty up the first baseline, and Hernandez has to flip it and flips it by Backman. Marshall will come in to score as Backman chases it down. Shelby stops at third, and down to second goes Socha. So the Mets very much expecting Socha to swing away with Hernandez playing back at first base and then charging and flipping it behind Backman, and the Dodgers take advantage and lead 1-0.
So in an unlikely turn of events, the Dodgers end up getting that lead 1-0, and the Dodgers got another run in that inning and another one in the next inning, both on ground outs. However, the Mets chipped away and the game was tied by the 6th inning. And in the top of the 8th, the Dodgers loaded the bases after back-to-back strikeouts to begin the inning. The next batter was Mike Sharperson.
And the Dodgers take the lead on a bases-loaded walk as Gonzalez makes it 4-3, and all of this taking place with 2 outs. And again, another run in this game without a ball being hit out of the infield.
So the Dodgers take the lead once again. This time, instead of it being on an error, it's on a walk, and the Dodgers had a 4-3 lead, but the pitching struggled through the 8th. And after a leadoff walk, the infamous Wally Backman came up looking to tie the game.
If you're a real one, you know why Wally Backman is the infamous Wally Backman.
For the moment, they have Terry Leach throwing in the pen. Backman hits a drive to right center field. Shelby races back. It's by him. It dies on the warning track. The Mets tie the game. Backman has a double.
So the Mets back in it, back tying it, making it a 4-4 ball game. And the Mets ended up scoring 5 runs in that inning as the Dodgers used 4 different relievers. You know, maybe it would be different in the 3-batter minimum world, but the Mets ended up winning that game 8-4. And then we go into game 4 with the Mets leading the series 2-1. In the first inning in game 4, the Dodgers quickly had 2 on and 2 out. And the batter looking to come through was John Shelby.
To third, Hatcher at second, and Shelby hits a soft looper into right field for a base hit. Sachs comes in to score, so does Hatcher. And now it's Davey Johnson's turn to lament the blue pit. A looping single into right field, and the Dodgers break out on top 2-0.
Number 14, the catch.
So the Dodgers now up once again, getting the early lead as they usually did in that series. But the Mets took the lead in the 4th on back-to-back home runs from Darryl Strawberry and Kevin McReynolds. And in the 6th, the Mets extended the lead on a Gary Carter triple. The Dodgers were down 2 and heading into the 9th, and were 3 outs away from going down 3-1 in the series. John Shelby, who you've seen earlier in the game, he led off the 9th with a walk, and Mike Socha came up as the tying run for the Dodgers.
At the plate, Hernandez playing back of the runner at first, and that's ripped to right field and deep. Strawberry goes back. She's gone. Mike Socha with 35 home runs in 8.5 years in the major leagues. And we talked about him throughout the series. Big and strong, but really a contact hitter. A man who doesn't strike out a lot and who doesn't hit very many home runs, averaging about 4 per season. It's the biggest of his career.
It wasn't the home run, it was the walk.
So Mike Scioscia ties the game, ties the game in the 9th, making it 3-3. And the game was tied, and it went into extra innings. And after Alejandro Pena pitched three innings in relief, Kirk Gibson came up in the 12th inning looking to change some things.
Gibson hits a high drive, a towering drive to deep right center field, and that one is gone. So he hits a home run in the 12th inning after not hitting a ball out of the infield all night long. And as Tim just said, a low ball hitter against the sinker ball pitcher.
That's only the second home run all year off Roger McDowell. The other hit by Bo Diaz of the Cincinnati Reds, but not as.
So Kirk Gibson gives the Dodgers the lead on a solo home run. And the Dodgers ended up winning that game by the score of 4-3. And in game 5, with the series tied after Tim Belcher and Sid Fernandez dueled through the first 3 innings, in the 4th inning, Rick Dempsey came up for the Dodgers with 2 men on.
Down the line in left field, fair ball, and bouncing into the corner. Marshall comes in to score. Amalfitano waving Shelby in. He scores on a 2-run double by Dempsey. 2-0 Dodgers. So Rick Dempsey catching today because of the lefty Fernandez on the mound, sending Scioscia to the bench, delivers here in the 4th.
So the Dodgers swipe that early lead, making it 2-0. And 2 batters later, Alfredo Griffin came up looking to tack on.
That energy, especially in this situation with a game that ends well after midnight and starts at noon. Griffin drives into the gap in left center by Dykstra for extra bases. Dempsey comes in to score. Griffin has a double, and the Dodgers lead it 3-0 in the 4th inning. Alfredo Griffin, who hit 167 as a right-handed hitter, driving one by Dykstra. I think he set us all up.
So the Dodgers extend their early lead, and the Dodgers were up 3-0, but they were not done there. In the next inning, Steve Sachs and Mickey Hatcher led off the singles, bringing up Kirk Gibson with 2 men on, trying to put the nail in the coffin.
3-0 Los Angeles, and the 2-1 pitch coming to Gibson. His hit to deep right field, and that one is gone. And Kirk Gibson hits his first home run of the game, but his second of the day, because he hit one exactly 13 hours ago at 12:27 a.m., and this one comes at 1:27 p.m. and breaks it open, 6-0.
So the Dodgers are blowing the Mets out of the water in game 5. And the Dodgers were in command, and in the 9th, Brian Holton looked to finish the game off.
To shallow right center field, and Shelby comes in and makes the catch. And 3 of the 5 games have had Shelby involved in dramatic situations to close them out, especially last night and obviously in game 1 as well. And here, Shelby comes racing in to put it away, and the Dodgers are 1 victory away from the World Series.
And all the New York teams apparently were playing New York after games back in the 80s. No originality. Or maybe the Mets were the first to do it. I don't know. But pretty interesting. So the Dodgers win Game 5. They need to win one of their next 2 games to go to the World Series. And in Game 6, Tim Leary struggled in this game as he gave up 4 runs in 5 innings, but the offense was an even bigger issue as they could only muster 1 run against David Cone. The teams would be going to a decisive Game 7, but there was an even bigger problem lingering. Kirk Gibson, the National League MVP, left the game with an injury on both of his legs. He would be questionable for Game 7 and possibly the World Series if they ended up making it. And in Game 7, unfortunately, Kirk Gibson was able to play in this game, and he hit a sac fly in the first to put the Dodgers up 1-0. And in the second, after the Dodgers had taken a 2-0 lead, Steve Sax came up with the bases loaded, looking to extend the lead.
Back up the middle for a base hit. Hamilton comes in to score. Griffin being waved in. The throw to the plate, not in time. 4-0.
So Steve Sax comes up big with the bases loaded. And the Mets ended up with 5 runs in the inning, or the Dodgers ended up with 5 runs in the inning on 2 Mets errors, making it a 6-0 game. However, Kirk Gibson had to leave the game early again, but we do know that does not matter when Orel Hershiser is on the mound.
Hershiser goes to the mound for the Dodgers, making his 4th appearance in the series. Any count. 2-2 pitch is hit right into the glove of Hamilton. So it takes him 29 pitches, but he escapes a first inning jam. Darling, good hitting pitcher, squibs one toward third, fielded by Hamilton, and his throw off the bag, but Hatcher makes the catch. 2-2 pitch is grounded down to Sax. He goes to Griffin 1, back to first, double play. At the end of 2 1/2, the Dodgers 6 and the Mets nothing. Got him on a breaking pitch. Fooled him, and down he goes.
His contract's run out, and he's seeking something.
Gardner hits a 2-bouncer to Griffin. He makes the play himself. Squib, backhanded by Hershiser. 1 gone. Here's the 1-2 to Magadan. Got him. Changed up on him, and down he goes. And it's 2 strikeouts for Orel Hershiser. Becomes in postseason. To left field and racing over is Hatcher, and he makes the catch.
Postseason play.
And down goes Hernandez. At the end of 5 1/2, 6-0 Los Angeles. To left field and deep, but playable for Jose Gonzalez. And at the end of 6 1/2, it remains Los Angeles 6, New York nothing. Sax. And at the end of 7 1/2, it remains 6-0 Dodgers. To left center field and deep and all the way back, and making the catch on the run is Gonzalez. theme is California, here we stay.
It's quite the victory song the Dodgers got going there.
What was the song?
I don't even know, but it sounded very unfitting.
Yeah, it pretty casual. It sounded like something that like the Red Sox organist plays after they lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of interesting, but the Dodgers win the pennant, and the biggest contributors, Orel Hershiser was determined the biggest contributor, winning National League Championship Series MVP, pitching at 24 2/3 innings pitched with a 1.09 ERA, along with 15 strikeouts. And Mike Scioscia also slashed 364, 391, 545 for a 937 OPS. And the team as a whole had a very good 3.32 ERA. They are going on to the World Series.
They're going to face the Bash Brothers in the Oakland Athletics, one of the greatest teams of all time. One of them we covered, but this team was star-studded and they were battle-tested. And in Game 1, Kirk Gibson was out of the starting lineup for this game, so they would have had to do without him. But the offense didn't seem to have much of a problem early, as Mickey Hatcher came up in the first with a man on, looking to give the Dodgers the early lead.
Fastball hit into left field and deep. Back goes Parker, way back. It is gone.
So Mickey Hatcher makes it a 2-0 Dodger lead with the 2-run home run, but Tim Belcher began struggling in the third. After giving up a single and 2 walks, the bases were loaded with 2 outs for Jose Canseco.
He scored over 800 runs this year. And there's a drive to center. Back goes Shelby to the wall. It is gone. Grand slam home run for Jose Canseco.
And look where he hit it. Over the center field fence, a line drive. It didn't get up, it didn't get down, it just got out. We talked about it. They have about 5 guys on that lineup with one swing can turn the game around, and you just saw it here.
That was an absolute missile by Canseco, and it gave the A's a 4-2 lead. After this, the pitchers from both sides settled down, outside of a Mike Scioscia RBI single in the 6th to make it 4-3. And in the bottom of the 9th, Dennis Eckersley was on for the A's. He finished 2nd in the AL Cy Young voting and 5th in the AL MVP voting. After he retired Mike Scioscia and Jeff Hamilton at the beginning of the inning, the Dodgers were down to their final out in Game 1.
3.
If he gets on, we're going to hear some roar.
3-1. And he walked him. And look who's coming up.
Straight out. So, if you know baseball, you know what happens next. We all do. Gibson works the count to 3-2. The fact that he's even able to stand in the batter's box and take swings is a miracle in itself. If you go back and watch the at-bat in full, he is trying to basically stay alive while swinging the bat. He's basically doing it with his entire upper half. And eventually, the tying run moved to second base, and Gibson would have to give something in a 3-2 count.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
So Kirk Gibson hits a walk-off home run without legs off of Dennis Eckersley, the best closer in the league, and completely steals one away from the A's in one of the most timeless classic games in Major League Baseball history. And somehow they got to follow that up in game 2. And for the first couple innings of the game, the Dodgers couldn't manage anything against Storm Davis, but they had it all figured out in the 3rd.
And there's a base hit to center.
He faked the bunt and does it again.
Well, he's a handy man with the bat. And after having had 11 during the year, it's really not a surprise to see him single to center. And he went to right and has his base hit. And Hershiser is going to test Canseco. The throw to third, he's in there.
At Hershiser, they're going to challenge the Oakland outfield. Even Canseco has that good arm. You saw it in a normal replay, and Hershiser did not stop. They're going to challenge everybody.
And there's the ground ball, base hit to right. Hershiser scores, and Sachs will go to third. 1-0 Dodgers. Runner going, chopper up the middle, into center field. Sachs will score, Stubbs to third, in there, down to second, Hatcher. Here is Stubbs now. You'll see Weiss a head-first dive, just missed it, and then Franklin hurdling him to go to third.
And watching the play all the way, it was a hit-and-run play, and when he jumps over Weiss, he lands on the bag.
High fly ball into deep left field. Back goes Parker on the track at the wall. Gone. One year ago, Mike Marshall hit a home run against the San Francisco Giants, and he was upset with the opposition, and he gestured to the bench. He has regretted that since the day it happened. You will notice now that on a home run, he will not show even the slightest bit of emotion. Meanwhile, the runners are just the other way around.
Look at Stubbs. Jerry Crawford ready to call if the ball is caught. Lasorda, very conservative, of course. Yay! He jumps up.
Can we get another yay for that Lasorda reaction?
Let's see what we can do.
Very conservative, of course. Yay! He jumps up.
We had a soundboard. If we had a soundboard, that would go right on the soundboard.
It'd be right there with how about that?
Yes.
Also, I couldn't go through this show without some Vin Scully storytelling, and he did it right there.
Right, yeah.
With the home run. And, well, the Dodgers scored 5 in the 3rd, which would be more than enough offense, as we know, for Orel Hershiser.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Got him. I don't know what it is on the Chinese calendar, but it's the year of the Hershiser, the year of the Bulldog.
It certainly is. And
so Orel Hershiser goes the distance. Did you expect anything less? Of course not. The Dodgers end up winning the game, and they take both ends of the LA part of the series in first, going to Oakland 2-0. And now in game 3, scoring wasn't exactly happening in Oaktown. In the fifth, the game was 1-0 Oakland, but the Dodgers had a runner on second with 2 outs, and the batter was Franklin Stubbs.
2 down. Hamilton at second. Stubbs drives one into right center. That's up the alley. It'll go to the 375 mark. Stubbs into second base with a double, and the game all tied up 1-1. And did he drill that? In fact, sitting up here, when the ball was hit, it was leaving the infield, and Canseco had not moved. And it wasn't that he didn't get a good jump on the ball. It was hit that hard.
So Franklin Stubbs with an absolute laser of a double into the gap, tying up the game. The game went into the bottom of the 9th, tied. After Jay Howell got Jose Canseco to pop up, he then had to deal with the other Bash Bro in Mark McGwire.
High drive up the alley in left center field, and this one is going to be gone. Home run, McGwire.
So Mark McGwire hits a walk-off home run for the Oakland A's and gets them on the board in the World Series 2-1. And the Dodgers still needed to win 2. So now we go into game 4, and the Dodgers got off to a quick start as there was already a man on third after the third batter, and Mike Davis was up to try and drive him in.
Up tonight. And it gets away at the plate, so Sachs will score. Hatcher to second, makes a turn and holds. And the Dodgers pick up a run in the first inning.
And it was a cross-up. You see Stewart and Steinbach. I don't.
So Mike Davis doesn't even need to take the bat off his shoulders to contribute. The Dodgers end up scoring 4 runs in this game, and they were on a wild pitch, which you already saw, an RBI ground out, an E6, and another ground out, which was kind of a weird scoring combination, especially in a playoff game of a team with pretty good offense. It is just one of 4 games in World Series history where a team had 4 or more runs scored and 2 or less RBIs. And the Dodgers ended up winning the game 4-2 behind some great pitching. And now we go on to game 5, where the Dodgers could clinch the whole thing. Franklin Stubbs hit a single in the first, which gave Mickey Hatcher an at-bat with a runner on.
And there's a high drive into deep left field. Back goes Javier. Gone. Mickey Hatcher, a 2-run home run.
And that Dodger bench almost feeling like, well, that's enough. Look at them all waiting for Hatcher.
So Mickey Hatcher, who has had a storybook year, remember he called, or had his agent call, to try and get a job with the Dodgers, and he thought he was going to Albuquerque. And when the agent called back and said, "You're a Dodger," he wound up going with the big club. Hatcher drive into deep left field.
So Mickey Hatcher with his second home run of the series. He's contributing big time, and he wants to party tonight in Oakland. Later on in the 4th, Hatcher came through again with a leadoff single. And 3 batters later, Mike Davis, the replacement for Kirk Gibson, I believe, was looking to drive him in.
3 balls, no strikes. They let him swing, and a drive to right. Canseco going back. It is gone.
Lasorda gambles on a 3-0 pitch. He got a fastball, and Davis, who came to the Dodgers with the reputation of hitting home runs, hits a 3-0 pitch and picks up 2 runs for the Dodgers.
So Davis, who hit only 2 during the year, hits 1 in the World Series. Hatcher, who hit 1 during the year, hits 2 in the World Series. and the Dodgers lead 4-1.
So Mike Davis, a guy who was a lifelong Oakland A, going into the 1988 season, gets it done against his former team in the World Series, and the Dodgers were up 4-0. And, well, it was up to Orel Hershiser to keep the Oakland offense at bay, pun intended.
Breaking ball, and he kind of sidearmed him. He really got under that to give it such a big roundhouse curve. And at the end of an inning, 2-0 Dodgers. 1-0. And he lifts a fly ball to left. Hatcher's there. Sinker hit down to Griffin. He goes to Sachs, and they get the force play. 1-2. Got him.
Breaking ball again.
So we zero in on him, and he does likewise on McGuire.
Look at that. He just comes right at you with the breaking ball down. McGuire can't get it.
Drive to center. Going back is Shelby. He has room and puts it away. 2-2. Got him. For Hershiser, that would be his third strikeout. 1 ball, 2 strikes. In there, and that's his 4th strikeout. He's now retired 4 in a row. That's 4, now 5 strikeouts for Orel Hershiser.
Here it comes. Good curveball. Look at the rotation, the spin on it, in a good spot, and Henderson just can't come close to it.
Little dribble, a charging Alfredo gets a pretty good hop and throws out Parker. 0-2 to Ron Hasse. And he's badly fooled on an off-speed pitch. Lifted that one, a fly ball to center. I think Carney would like to have taken that swing back. Got him on that low breaking ball. 1 run, 1 hit, 2 left, and at the end of 8, 5-2 Dodgers. No balls and 2 strikes to Ron Hasse. Breaking ball got him looking. 8 strikeouts for Orel Hershiser. 5-2 Dodgers in the 9th. Got him. They've done it. Like the 1969 Mets. It's the impossible dream revisited.
A fastball, 9 strikeouts for Hershiser. He gives up a total of 4 hits, and look at the mob. It looked like he was going to be replaced, but he hung in there. Bulldog is quite a name.
And meanwhile, Jose Canseco quietly goes back to the dressing room. The biggest single gun for the Oakland Athletics, thoroughly muffled in the series. And Mr. Orel Hershiser Sr. can finally relax for a moment. The A's, a great hitting ball club, hit 177 in the series and scored a total of 11 runs in 5 games.
Never would have believed it unless you saw it. You'd have to attribute it to pretty good pitching. Very good.
For the first time since 1981, the Los Angeles Dodgers are World Series champions. They ride the back of Orel Hershiser just like they did for the last 2 months of the season. And Chris, like Vince Scully said, this was the impossible dream revisited. A team that had back-to-back 73-win seasons comes out of nowhere, wins the division handily, and blows through the playoffs.
Yeah, very much so. And like pretty much out of nowhere. I bet, you can't really acquire anything from that time, but there probably wasn't a lot of like newspapers or, talk shows predicting Dodgers going to the playoffs, never mind winning the World Series. And they just kind of dominated out of nowhere,
Exactly.
Outside of maybe that championship series where they had to go to 7.
Orel Hershiser, as expected, won World Series MVP. He went 2-0 in 18 innings pitched with a 1.00 ERA and 17 strikeouts. Throughout the postseason, he threw 42 1/3 innings, a 1.05 ERA, and 32 strikeouts. Incredible play from him all postseason and through the end of the regular season too. Alejandro Pena during the World Series, a reliever, had 5 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts. Also, Kirk Gibson, I normally don't do lines like this, but I mean, I got to. He slashed 1,000, 1,000, 4,000, 5,000 with 1 home run and 2 RBI. You know, usually you overlook people with small sample sizes in postseason series, but this might be the one guy, other than Jeff Blum in 2005, where you got to include it.
He had to be up there in a win probability added too.
Yeah. Mickey Hatcher probably would have won offensive World Series MVP. He slashed 368, 400, 737, 1137 with 2 home runs, 5 RBI, and 1 walk. Mike Marshall had an 846 OPS, and Franklin Stubbs had a 294 average. So now we get into the legacy of the 1988 Dodgers. Of course, we mentioned the improbability of them, winning as much as they did. They weren't supposed to go to the playoffs, and they weren't supposed to beat the 100-win Mets, and they weren't supposed to beat the Bash brothers on the Oakland A's, along with everyone else who went on to win the World Series the next year. So that was very impressive. Kirk Gibson is obviously remembered for his iconic home run. This entire season, like anytime you reference anything that happened in baseball in 1988, it kind of just automatically goes back to that single moment. Him coming off the bench, like not even being able to walk. I mean, if you look at the replay, he's like stumbling around the bases, and then it cuts to, Tommy Lasorda, who's well in his 60s at that point, sprinting towards home plate. And then, the MVP of the league is struggling to get around the bases after hitting a home run. So that was obviously the most memorable moment of that team and just of that era, really. And Orel Hershiser basically achieved legend status during those last 2 months. That 59-inning scoreless streak, it still holds to this day as the record. It's something we might never see again, especially in a heavy offensive era in baseball. And like I said before, they far exceeded the expectations based on their previous 2 seasons heading into this one.
Yeah. It is funny, like whenever when we picked these teams and you said, or when we picked this team and you said 1988 Dodgers, first image in my head is, Eckersley on the mound with Gibson with his leaned over batting stance.
I literally said, like, this team won the World Series on the back of one of the most iconic home runs in baseball history.
Yeah, and like you're right. It's the first image that comes in your head when you think 1988 Dodgers.
Or just 1988 baseball.
Yeah, 1988 in general, yeah. And yeah, Orel Hershiser, like, we've done the 2014 Giants, we've done the 2001 Diamondbacks. Orel Hershiser's postseason performance in 1988, right up there with 2014 Mad Bum, 2001 Randy Johnson, 2001 Kurt Schilling.
Absolutely.
It was unbelievable.
Another thing is that I think we should shine a light on the home run that Mike Scioscia hit in Game 4 of the NLCS, because if they lost that game, they go down 3-1 to the Mets, and most likely they're not coming back from that. That's a 100-win team, and a 2-2 series is much different than a 3-1 series.
Yeah, that's one of the forgotten ones. Yeah, it was sort of like it doesn't have the exact same parallel because they didn't win, but going back to 2001, before Derek Jeter did the Mr. November home run, there was Tino Martinez, who in the 9th inning with 2 outs hit a 2-run homer to tie the game. So
I'll provide a more modern example. I know that this is going to be very controversial, but remember when Marwin Gonzalez hit that home run in Game 2 of the 2017 World Series off Kenley to tie it up, and the Astros later won the game? That's a modern example of that home run.
Yeah, it turned it around. It made it from, a 2-game deficit in the series to
a 1-1,
a tie series. It was very, very big, and probably does get.
It was a banger.
Overlooked for sure, because of several other things that were going on in the 1988 season for the Dodgers. But does that wrap it up for
It does.
1988 Dodgers? All right, now we get into our favorite part of the episode. We're only picking the team. We're only doing one subject a week. We already know the player we're talking about next week. And now we're going to be picking the team that we're going to be talking about 2 weeks from now. So if you don't know the process, we originally had 30 teams. We've done 27 now.
Wow.
27 up, 27 down. But
we've gone a perfect game. Now we're going to the 10th.
We're going to the 10th. Yeah, exactly. Perfect analogy for us. And yeah, we have 3 teams left. We have numbers 1 through 5. And which have we picked already?
We have numbers 1, 2, and 4 still available.
1, 2, and 4. So, all right, I'm gonna pick the number you picked last week, number 1.
Team number 1, our 3rd straight and final NL West team. It is fitting because when the first 2 NL West teams we did were back-to-back, the last 3 are going to be back-to-back-to-back. We've already gone over a team that this team played in the playoffs, and we're going to revisit that series with the forgotten 50 home run season of a guy, the age 38 season of a legend, and the prime of one of the forgotten pitchers of the 90s. We are talking about the 1998 San Diego Padres.
There we go. And in my mind, I think this improves the chances that we're going to be ending on a World Series champion for teams. So I'm pretty happy about that. Possibly. But it ups the chances for sure. But the Padres, yeah, this is a team we got to get into because this is the highlight year of the Padres franchise so far.
Yep.
And it might not be it might not be that forever. We might be seeing some actual success in San Diego, but we got to get to the first and most successful team thus far.
Yeah, so this was Greg Vaughn was on this team. He had 50 home runs, like I mentioned earlier. Tony Gwynn, of course, was still there. Trevor Hoffman was still there. Sterling Hitchcock was there. Kevin Brown was among the players. Ken Caminiti was on the team. I think Steve Finley was on the team.
It's great.
If that's true, which it is, that is the 3rd team that we've done that Steve Finley was on.
The Diamondbacks, Padres, and who?
Rockies.
Oh, right, the Rockies. Yeah.
He played at age 42, he played 43 games for the 2007 Rockies.
Wow, a 3-teamer.
Exactly. He might be the only one.
Yeah, I was thinking about there's plenty of guys that have been on 2 teams. I don't know about 3 teams.
Well, Steve Finley is going to be one of them.
Steve Finley is joining the club. We don't know if it's exclusive or not, but he's joining the club. So shout out to him. But that wraps it up for episode 94 of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this episode. First of all, we'd like to thank StatHead, Baseball Reference, Fangraphs, and MLB on YouTube for all the content they provided for us. Not personally, but we went to the site. They're providing all that stuff for us. And if you want to watch the videos with us, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the videos with us, go to our YouTube channel. It's called Above Replacement Radio. And go follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_current. And follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio. Get all the show updates. And we hope you enjoyed the 1988 Dodgers episode. And we hope to see you next Tuesday where we're going to be talking all MLB news, including a preview of the NL Central. And we hope to see you on Thursday where we're going to be talking about the great Hank Greenberg. See you then.